Good afternoon. It's Monday, October 18th, and I'm here with Phil Childs. I'm Gordy Gottlieb. We're part of the Nanticoke Valley Historical Society, and we're proud to present a program called Visions of Maine today. So I'll turn it over to Phil, and I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Well, thanks. Welcome, everybody. Last time we were in the studio, we took a trip up Route 26. The third member of our crew is with us again today, and that's Lily. And if you listen for the thumps of her tails, you'll hear that occasionally, especially if she likes what we're doing. We're going to start off with, and Gordy, you want to put the first slide up, please, and see what it looks like. The whole idea of this is that Maine is an exceptionally photogenic place, artistically beautiful, no matter what the season, and people over the years, going back 100 or more, have recorded it because it's the right thing to do. The title here starts off that we're going to feature original paintings, sketches, photography. Some of the photography goes back to 1900, some of it is modern stuff that I shot myself. And we start off in the opening screen just as a vision, here we go, of what Maine would have looked like. And I think it's 1908. And we're standing off of Lewis Street up on a hill. If you went there today, you wouldn't see a thing because all the trees would be blocking it out. So things have changed a lot. In the background, you might notice almost all the hills are clear. And that's because it's a farming area. Still a lot of farming going on. Most of the farming as far as wheat and grain has stopped. It's dairy grazing, and we have lots of creameries. I think there's 3 active creameries in the town of Maine. We're going to focus only on the town of Maine, in a 5,000 population area. We're not going off to our communities south or north of us for this presentation. We got a grant from Broome County Arts Council to help support this. And eventually, hopefully within a month or so, we will have a publication subtracting material from this presentation on it. So Gordy, I'd like you to start off basically on slide 3. One more. Here we go. We have a loose table of contents here. Most of you will follow a certain logic here. We'll go from what I'm calling the hamlet, about the 4th Street area in Maine, and then of course going out to the other areas in there. These 2 welcome signs, if you come into the town of Maine, are obvious. No, that's not true. Probably in another month they're going to cover them over, so it won't have the beautiful little scene on the top. And our 2 welcoming obvious things are the pagoda and the Pitcher's grist mill on it. So Gordy, let's start off with just a little map back in 1855. And this map shows you how small we were back then. Population probably about 1,500 total. Today's again about 5,500. And the center of town was a hotel, 2 churches on Church Street. If you know a little bit about Maine, we're missing a couple of streets that are there now, Lewis Street and McGregor Avenue. But it's a nice little community, typical of, I guess, upstate New York. The one thing we don't have, no railroad, but we do have a small creek runs through it. And by this time in 1855, an exceptionally good quality road reaching up to Whitney Point and reaching down towards Endicott. So our first scene looks like the one you just saw, but it's from the opposite direction. We're now standing on what's called King Hill, which is south of the town a little bit. The one church you might notice in the middle of it, and is the, yep, there it is. So we still have three churches, but this time, this one's 1908. The three churches are now one on Main Street, one on Church Street, and the second one that was on Church Street in 1855 has been literally moved to Lewis Street. Again, trees are missing, a lot of farming going on, probably more barns than houses in the town. So we're going to start off our next slide. Around 1900, the idea of personal photography took over in America. It was just like the greatest thing going. And one of the things you could do, you could buy a camera that made so-called postcards. And a lot of those are made. You can still buy these today on eBay. And we have a collection of about 10 or so of the downtown area. The thing that looks like the pagoda is the pagoda, but is not really the pagoda, if you follow that closely, because this pagoda was the original one that was in the middle of the street. And I think we're talking about the middle 1800s, and it did burn down in 1922. And the current pagoda is really only probably 50 feet away from where the other one stood. On the left-hand side is the same building you would see today in the post office. On the right-hand side, extremely right-hand side, is part of the Catholic Church. Back then it wasn't, it was the hotel we were talking about. And we're looking north towards Whitney Point. Notice no pavement. We do have probably maybe some car tire, but most of it probably was carriages going up and down the street. The one thing I want to point out, which always amazes me, is that the street is at the same level as the sidewalks. In today's world, after lots of repaving by the DOT, you have to go up about almost a foot. So we're basically, this Main Street is rising up on that one. The next visage, I'm going to get that word correctly eventually, is the same scene, but in the wintertime. And if you think it's hard driving now, it'll be really hard driving then with cars. And you might notice to the right over at the Marine store, there's two people facing the camera, and they're in a wagon there, and maybe deliveries are going on there. The other thing which is kind of neat is the trees line the street there. It'd be wonderful if we can get good old maple trees lining the streets. We keep on our tours of this one. This is now Main Street. We made 180 degrees. No, go back up there. No, you were right. I was wrong. Go back to the Allen one. There you go. We're looking south in towards Endicott. The one thing that some of those homes are still there. The one thing that's you notice quickly here is that there's a business sign, and it says on it, oh, I'm trying to read it. J.R. Allen Undertakers. Huh. That's cool. The Allen Undertakers will eventually move in 1915 into Endicott and continue their business there. But the Allen family, believe it or not, came from Allentown, which is only 3 miles north on 26, and they set up their business. Again, no paving, sidewalks. Great invention. Wish we had them today on both sides of the streets. Okay, another quick view. We won't do every one of these things. This is Church Street. For some reason, the sidewalks are elevated on Church Street, and most of those buildings are still there. The next view, Ron McGregor. And this almost looks identical, with the one exception is what you're looking at in the background. You'd say looks just like our fire department, but back then it was a creamery. Next one, please. Back onto now standing on Church Street, looking at the hotel, the pagoda, and next to the hotel was the stables and livery where they sold horses. Big business in Maine at that time. Let's jump a little bit, Gordy. You can go like click in 3 seconds slowly. This is kind of cool. Oh, I'm screwing you up.
Too far?
Yeah, we'll stop at the kid and the slide.
Okay.
Only because one more. And at the same time that the postcard photography was going on, we had a professional artist, Frank Bowers, who's from the Bowers family, which lived right on Nanticoke Road. And what he did is he went around and he took images of real life. Maybe not your life. Kid in the wagon. The title, by the way, "Man and Car Being Pulled by Ox in Front of Store, question mark 1915." Uh, these are the original titles from it. They're part of the Bowers collection. You can find them in the New York Heritage website, and the website is listed at the bottom. If we jump to the next one down, now we come to modern times, and painting has taken over. It's almost ironic that photography was the big thing in 1900. And now we're sort of in awe of original paintings. It should look like it does today. This is done by great artists from our local area, who grew up in our local area, Scott Yurko, and this is a year old, of our post office. And we'll have a few other of Mr. Yurko's paintings, I believe, throughout this presentation. I want to jump to what I'm going to call 16 on this one. And this is the next chapter. It's again, Frank Bowers, and he took his photography out there, which incredibly good. I believe they were glass plates. I won't swear to that. And these sections called Glimpses of Life Outside the Hamlet. Obviously what's going on, the young lady is helping out here. And what's almost funny is that how easy it is to make hay today with machines and spinning them out in large bales. Back then it was all hand intensive. Other photos that were shown is a gentleman, with a bowler seated in a one-horse buggy on a country road. Again, Frank Bowers. His photography is really special. Again, in the background, notice absence of trees in the fields and everything. I'm going to do a couple more with Mr. Bowers. Next one, please. Again, this is a nice visage. What am I trying to say, Gordy?
I think that's
Okay,
that's right.
nice view of a small town. I think it's Maine, but I won't swear to it. But he went around the area and was really wonderful collecting these nice vignettes, better word to use. Okay. And he went to the farmers, like in this next one is a Mr. Pitcher, and he's out in his pumpkin patch, and could be today also, with the exception of maybe the corn stalks are tied differently than it would be today. Let's go one more. Here we go. We'll stop with this gentleman here. I don't know which member of the Pitcher family in here, but he obviously was a model that he used. I believe he was in four of the photos you're going to see. On the left, around 1900, of giving it to Mr. Pitcher with grain. Mr. Pitcher in the corn. I think he probably was just before the baseball game, Yankees and White Sox, was it earlier this year? But I'm not sure on that one. And one last one in here. Go click the next one, please. And here's another Mr. Pitcher's on the lower photo there, and the gentleman next to him. Well, it's not Lily, I should say. That looks a lot like Lily, a little darker than Lily does there. Mr. Belden Allen, who was a fascinating guy. I'd love to do a book on his experiences in the Civil War. We do have a diary of his. And you might notice on the photo on the right-hand side, there's a little bump in the man's head. And during the Civil War, he was in the Engineer Corps, and he woke up, was knocked out, felt a big bump in his head. He was struck by a bullet, and left it there the rest of his life. Must have been great fun for the grandkids to talk about, I would think. Yeah. Grandpa, tell us about the hole in your head type of thing, right? So let's jump to another section while we're at it here. And I want to go to, let's see. Let's go about 4 down. There we go. Let's stop right there. One of our other great artists we had in our area was Clarence Stratton. And this should look very familiar. It's the Little League field. I think the advertisers have changed. This is from 1973. And it's the same field we have today, Zimmer Field. and Little League was a major part of our area. Uh, It was commissioned by Lee Stanford, and he asked Clarence to come up with, he loved baseball. And the side to the right there, you'll see the Fireman's Field Days was going on in this one. And I put a little photo below, which is what the area looked like before the town took over in the 1970s. The McGregor family sold the land, and that's what we call our town park today on it. Again, the hills are not as well covered with trees, but they're going to get there. Okay, Gordy, let's go to, well, same park, one more down. Wintertime. If we have a pagoda, this is called a gazebo. You got to ask the town to figure that one out on that one. But this is been used a lot lately, especially in COVID times. They've had concerts in there, and the rec committee has done a great job on this one. These are photos, a lot of them that are not labeled are photos that I took. And this was on December 3rd in 2019, not the one that's last year, but we do get quite a good snows around here. One more view below. We're going to go sort of out of the area a little bit, and we're going up K Road, and almost probably what the original people when they got here would have seen, except the trees would have been probably twice the size. The two major things, the hemlocks and the white pines, were the two trees that they were after, but we have, of course, the hardwoods throughout the area. Back then, and this is not back then, but back then you had your chestnuts and all the other and fantastic woods, the walnuts and everything else that we could have been used for lumber. This is up on K Road looking, I guess, west on it. So our world is going sort of backwards as far as trees and land usage is concerned. The next series I want to jump to here, and Gordy, this is a project that the Historical Society did in the 1970s. They were putting out calendars a long time. And for 3 years, they actually asked people to submit personal sketches, which is wonderful. You know, the scenes look very familiar. Obviously, this is the pagoda. Since it was in the 70s, this is the quote, we're going to use the word new pagoda that Clarence Ames built. I included also the plaque, if you've never read it, that's found today in front of it. And the pagoda belongs to the town of Maine now. Lil Ames donated it to the town before she passed. That's Lil Ames's home, which was done by Sue Harrington. Both of these are by Susan Harrington. And really could be, you know, today's same image today on that. So let's see what other sketches I was able to come up with. If you drop down the next one, Gordy. I lied. Where did they go? Oh my God. We're going to jump, I think, to the sketches. So let's go to 36. Can you get that? What I'm calling 36? Yeah. If we have time, we'll come back. There we go. These sketches here are, again, from those calendars, and a lot of names you'll recognize. Nancy Berry, Larry Rice, Ed Pomeroy. I don't know Mr. McCullum at all on that one. But what's kind of cool is they, again, did a great job. I didn't even think of any of these people as artists, but they certainly captured our community. And this would have been not necessarily in the 70s. Mary Crockett's store was still active in the 70s. That's part of the 125th celebration. Mary Crockett's store was where they sold goodies for the celebration. But the Marine store on the bottom right was down by, I think 1930s on that one. Another series of sketches going down. Ken Rozak, you may recognize Ken, great art teacher, great person. Another one of Larry, with Larry's sketch of Engels is kind of neat because that would be from his front porch looking at the building. Two more that kind of look like they belong in the town of Maine. It was such a great idea to have these sketches and have people save it, save these images. If you want to go to the next one, I think that's the last series we got here. The Maine Federated is a very, very picturesque. It almost looks New Englandish as far as the scenery is concerned there. Again, some of these would go back in time. I'm sure like the Sue Harrington was the one we had before. I didn't realize I repeated it, but that could have been done back in 1973. The Maine Town Square Ketchum Hotel is probably copied off one of the photos that I showed a little bit earlier today. So how much time have we gone so far?
Not exactly sure.
Okay.
Keep going a little further.
We'll go a little further on this one. Go one more sketch. Introduces a new idea. In 1855, 1866, 1876, and 1908, there were things around New York State called Plat, P-L-A-T, books, and they had maps and sketches of communities. The 1855 didn't have any sketches specifically, but this one is from, I believe, the 1876 one showing the Marine store. Marine store is kind of more difficult place. People look at it and they don't know how to pronounce it. So Marine is just like, a branch of the military, the Marine and Sons. Marine, a very well-established family in the area, and this was the store. And this was right out of the Platt book in there. If you want to see these Platt books, hold them in your hands and stuff, go down to the Broome County Historical Society, second floor of the library in downtown Binghamton. Two great librarians working there. And if you're lucky, Roger Luther will be there to talk to personally. That's where his office would be. And you can actually pick these up, and just amazing detail for that time. I'm going to jump to the next one. And some of you here long enough, we'll take a pause for a second after this one. But if you remember Clarence and Lil Ames, the barn, Clarence was a collector of antiques, and he showed a lot of it on the outside of his barn. Barn has great character. The barn also, I believe, from the 1840s, and there was an addition added on the far side, I think in the 1960s, I want to say. I'm winging it on that one, but Clarence had such a great collection. After he died, I believe they auctioned off much of the material that was found in the barn, including some vehicles that he had. And we'll stop here for now while I get a drink of water, and maybe Lily wants to say something. This is from last winter, and our pagoda, you recognize obviously there, was covered by our 40+ inches of snow. I wrote down 40+ because everybody, depending where you were, would have had a different number. What did you figure out yours was, Gordy?
Pretty close to over 40.
Over 40. Yeah. I think Newark Valley had officially 46 inches. Incredible morning to wake up to. So again, let's go back why we're doing this in a sense, and then I'll shut up for a couple of seconds. We're doing this to capture photos and sketches and images of the town of Maine and the area around it. So there'll be a permanent record in this volume that we're having, so people can get a good idea of what it looked like. Maine has changed a lot, especially the trees along the ways and stuff. Roads are now paved. We're getting gas in the hamlet. Still have our own wells, still have our own septic system. So things have changed, but a lot of it stayed the same. So my hope is that we can get this stuff recorded and out there so people can have it. I'm going to pause for a moment, if you don't mind. Okay. So before the little break I took there, I needed a glass of water. I had a picture of Clarence and Lil Ames's barn. This is a close-up of his truck. This is from 2008. If you notice, the advertising on the truck was incredible. Clarence collected, and he collected everything. I think his barn was full. Stuff that he collected over the years, which is wonderful on that. Today, the barn is still classy looking, but you want to push the next slide there? This is what it looks like if you went there today on it. Awfully pretty. The gentleman who's probably watching this right down, Jeff, you're going to say, sure, you had to take the picture of the barn when there was damage to the right-hand side upper part, but during the summer months, we had, again, great windstorm and it made a tree hit the barn. The nice thing about this, Jeff and everybody else is watching, is that people are maintaining these old structures, which is kind of neat. Again, this barn, I believe, is from the 1840s, and there was an addition added, I believe, in the 1970s, using old wood and everything built the same way. If we go, Gordy, to this one seen here, we try to find as many of old photos that are floating around town. And this is on Church and Main Street, and this is a Lincoln store. And this has to predate 1893. And in 1893, a major fire occurred in town. This store went down. Across the street, there was another store burnt down. A few other stores just up and down the street there also burnt down. The barn was saved, and the house in the background is still the same one there. I always get a kick out of these old photographs of stores because you always got guys standing there dressed up. And they walk around, was the man in the bowler hat always riding his buggy and stuff like that. And today you would never see these things. It was a 3-story business, top floor. I believe they had the Masonic Temple on it. The next slide sort of introduces another section. I'm going to do it this way. And I'm going to jump a little bit on this. We're still in town. This is on Church Street. J. Ralph Ingalls building. Construction started in 1938. This is not a history book, more just a visual one. Martine has a great sketch, Barnaby on the top there. If we jump to the next photo, I went back to a Stratton painting because I loved it, because I wanted to show you how accurate and how beautiful the building is, obviously. But there's the blueprint, 1938 blueprint from the architects of what today we call J. Ralph. Back then it was called the Maine Central School. So there's a little bit of the history. I try to throw minimal amount of history in this thing. Okay, let's go another one in here, Gordy. This is historically interesting because people always ask, what was there before? Go back to those 3 photos, please. And these upper 2 ones are actually photographs of the original buildings that were there. We had 14 schools, I believe, in we'll call it the Maine School District prior to 1938. We had one large building, and that was also on Church Street. It was just a little bit to the right of where the main building is today, the J. Ralph Ingalls one. And that was built in 1833. It had 3 classrooms, 2 stories, kind of a cool looking building. There was improvement to it later on, and they added I think 2 or 3 more classrooms. They had a gymnasium inside. Major change in the whole thing. And in 1938, New York State decided that it would be better if school districts consolidated. And so the purpose of J. Ralph and another building that was built at the same time was to eliminate all the out one-room schoolhouses that we had. So it was open in 1940 and went through grade 9. After that, if you wish to continue your education, you could have asked to transfer to, I'm pretty sure, UE or Johnson City Schools to further your education on that. Nice, pretty picture. It was taken a couple of years ago. And Mr. McKilligan and the Historical Society wanted to try to replace the gorgeous stand of maples. These aren't the maples there to the right we put in. Prior to, well, every springtime they had a stand of maples. They would tap the trees. Kids still talk about it. They'd make maple syrup and they'd have a breakfast for everybody in the school at that time with the homemade syrup. And the beauty of the next one is this is just winter. Lynn Wynn took this photo. I just think it's a classic on that thing. And I commend you. By the way, if you have any photos that you'd like to add or any paintings that you have, if you contact Gordy Gottlieb or myself, Phil Childs, let us know and we can add it to our book if you would like to be part of this nice collection. There's one thing I forgot to mention, Gordy. Don't look at me like you want
We're
to.
gonna post all this to the Nanticoke Valley Historical
Oh,
Society
okay.
website. And
How do they find that? Pretty easily, or?
yep, just search for Nanticoke Valley Historical Society and then look for the presentations page. And you'll be able to not only watch this video, but there'll be a PDF of all of the images. So you can take your time and focus on them one at a time. And, as we, for sake of time, move through here, we may not be dedicating as much time as you would like to, the viewer would like to watch. So once we'll put out the video, and we'll put the accompanying PDF with some of the explanations, and you can take your time going through that presentation.
And again, hopefully we'll have a publication that you can buy
Yes. Yeah.
later on. I'm not saying, we'll do one more thing on Church Street. That's the next slide. That's the church on Church Street. The bell, which people always ask, was the original bell from the original church that was on Church Street. And also that stained glass window in the bottom part there was also from the original church. And if you go to the next slide, to the right by Lucy Church is a painting of, I think 1845 was the original church. I'm not sure on that one. And it's coming up on its 200th year anniversary. And that building was torn down in, I believe it was 1970s. It should be a little better on this thing here. But if you want to know the facts and stuff like that, you buy our other publication by Sue Lisk on images of Maine, New York. It has a lot on the history. So Lucy captured the beauty of the church, the stained glass windows right before the main entranceway in there. And then back there were places for carriages to park and stuff like that. So let's jump. Oh, that's a photograph, obviously. When was this one taken? 1908. So Lucy did a great job capturing that. I like her painting better than I like the photograph. And I'm really happy people took photos. We had another major photographer in our area, and that was Lee Loomis. You can scroll through a couple while I'm talking. And Lee Loomis was a teenager who had a camera in the early 1900s. And when he went around, he took a lot of the photos that we have, and we're very fortunate. You also know Lee Loomis because he, later in life, was a taxidermist, and he was actually a nationally recognized taxidermist. And there's a collections at Roberson of his works in taxonomy, whatever it is, toxicology. Work for the federal, the Treasury Department, right?
Taxidermy.
Yeah, taxidermy. Thank you, Gordy. And you might be noticing as Gordy's been flicking through these are some photos I've taken over the years of the Maine Federated Church, and I think they're kind of cool.
Yeah, capture every season.
Try my best on that one. We just had the 200th anniversary of not this building, but the actual church, which is kind of very impressive to have something that old in this area type of thing. The other church that was in town was the Methodist Church. It burnt down in 1928. When it burnt down, they combined with what's going to be called the Federalist Church today, and Federated Church, excuse me, today. And both congregations came out of this building in here. The building on the right hand of the church is the parsonage, and the left hand building, which looks like the parsonage, again from 1830s, which that's impressive to still have buildings like that, and not even aluminum siding on it, just the original stuff on it. So okay, we'll go to different things in Main and Lewis Street. I'm sorry, I want to just sort of walk up Lewis Street. We'll do about a 3-second images as you go through. So I knocked on some neighbors' doors and said, do you have any paintings that you'd like to share? And this is the Flannery family. The artist is Jack Long. That was last year's incredible snowstorm. Oh, this is cool. Luke Kazavinsky is a 22-year-old, I'm going to call him artist and historian. And he made a sketch of the Flannery Barn, but I want to push a little bit on the fact that Lucas also did the history of George F. Johnson. And his book is now for sale by the sponsored by the Broome County Historical Society. Great thing for you to purchase in there. This is the home I live in, the next one down. Ken Rozak did this painting in 1983 of my house. And then I also had a collection of other paintings on it. If you scroll down a little bit, I got to rework this image. Richard Henry did this one, but it's when I try to reproduce the glare, Gordon, you got to help me with getting a better image. Clarence Stratton in 1973, same house, sort of. The barn's now red. We've added an addition to it, but it's interesting to see how things stay the same and totally are changed onto it. I think, yeah, I got two more pictures I want to show you in my own area. So the morning I woke up, like everybody, you have the same story. 7 o'clock in the morning, just went to sleep, had 8 inches on the ground. I figured I'd get the snow blower out the next morning, and then I woke up to 40 plus inches on that one. And then I had a little fun on the next one. I over the years, I've been taking photos of my own home. And what I try to do here is get all 4 seasons. And then I'll give you a second to notice that the spring is on the extreme right, winter. In the middle is fall, actually. And, it's a fun thing to do on it. Paintings. Again, Richard Henry is a great guy. He's a nice painter. This is a painting of the house across the street that belongs to Sandy Rozak, and her husband Ken back in 1973 did a sketch to the upper right in there. One more photo, 71. I kind of like paintings more than photos. I'm not sure about you. What's your opinion, Gordy?
I like them both, actually.
Well, we're going to stop here for a moment. This is going to be, we're going to jump to another screen on that one.
Okay.
So go to the, there'll be a pause in a few seconds.
Yep.
So jump into something I think the Historical Society has done a great job, humbly he states, is for the last couple of years, we've had it's called a paint out, where we've invited painters, artists to come down and to go out and paint the area and trying to get a record of it. Jennifer Gibson is in the lower left-hand corner. She took a painting of Yancey Moore's home on that one, and Nanaco Creek, which is right behind the Most Holy Rosary Church. Chrissy did an incredible job. Wonderful. We're going to go through a couple more of these.
These were this year's.
These are
this year's plein-air paint out.
Yeah. Here's a couple more that you may recognize on that. Besides having the artists come in, they awarded prizes, cash and ribbon type things. And then we give the community an opportunity, if they'd like, to purchase the paintings. Some people go around and they like to do natural settings around, like Chrissy did the stream. Burton Taylor, very nice guy, art teacher at Newark Valley. There's a couple that he seems to enjoy doing waterfalls, different locations. This one's absolutely scarily beautiful. Joseph Daly did this one. If you go behind the elementary school and go up about a half a mile or so up there, you'll come to these things. I'm told that this used to be a swimming area years ago on that. And in the upper right-hand bank was a cottage that Clement Bowers had built there as part of his lifestyle there. He had his summer cottage, I guess is what you'd call it. So my photography of the area comes up. The next photo group, I like to revisit different seasons. And this is last year's off of Farm to Market Road on that one. I am not sure, they have a dairy farm or why they're just, just so gorgeous. I was a little bit more disappointed this year because of lack of colors, but last year I'm noticing September 10th, there were almost no colors also, except for the ragweed, which is out there. So we're sort of almost on the hilltops in the March 3rd photo on that one. I had fun with this one on Bryden Lane going up. There's an incredibly gorgeous hickory tree. That's my opinion. And these are 8 different scenes of the same tree from just about the same location, capturing the seasons in there. And it's amazing. That green color, which I didn't really only last for a couple of days when the leaves first come out. Gorgeous in there. And I had fun doing this. This took a couple of years to do this series in there. Just not as no topic, just to throw. We live in an area that people take such great pride in taking, planting flowers around their homes, but we even have wildflowers, the trilliums up on the top, bloodroot, poppies are obviously planted in there, ferns are, things, even the humble dandelion, it's just gorgeous around here. So I recommend you take a camera with you if you walk around the area. I just had to throw those in. Country Wagon Produce, I spent time photographing around there too. I just love their stand of sunflowers. This is upper one is a couple of years ago, where they had the Southern Antique Tractor group come in and plow the fields in there. And you may recognize the field off of Ames Road and Nanticoke roads in there. I threw the next one in because I liked the picture. I just took that this year. During the paint off, I went up to the Cyrus Gates farm, and they had a little pond there which had the lotus flowers. And I'm not sure what grabs me in it, but I would say this is one of the top 10 photos I've ever taken in my life, and I enjoy it and humbly make you look at it also. So on that one, seasons are always great to take in our area. This has not been a great year, but the goldenrod was a great year. This was the bottom one was this year's type thing. It lasted for about almost a week and a half of that bright yellow colors. Up on the hilltops again, the next one with a close-up. This is on top of King Hill, which technically isn't in the town of Maine, it's just out of it. But what's kind of cool is you're looking at the Broome County Airport from it, and which is part of the town of Maine on that one. You ever been up there?
Yeah.
You ever notice the airport?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you. Okay, let's go one more down. This is again Bryden Lane. There's at my hickory tree that I took before. And if we go to the next image, same location, but Carol Miller captured this of it. So it's I just love to see our area captured in so many different ways on that. You should go through about every 3-second pause between different one. And we're fortunate we'll continue this a little bit more. Artists picture different things. Ames Creek, Country Wagon. Artists have a great eye of seeing things in there. Ken Weir did this one. Andrea and Bill Groke, some great mums. And this is where they're their growing area was. The farms in the outlying area just, they're gorgeous. What can I tell you? A better year than this one was here. Ken Weir was out of his backyard. He lives on Fredericks Road. Not a painting, but could have, should have been one, right? This is a couple of years ago.
Or it can be.
Well, yeah, I guess we could.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago when the colors were scaringly beautiful. I wonder what happened this year. I'm attributing to so much rain we had earlier in the year, that type of thing. Let's drop to the next one. Oh, you're there already, good. And this is from about 1910. And Charlie Singer, lived in a farm right on it's actually Union Center, so I guess I'm violating the rules of only Maine, New York. But he painted his area. He was a dairy farmer. Captured that, which I thought was a nice juxtaposition of the cows in there. And then we have the next one. I see I jumped to there. I jumped to this one. This is another farm stream type thing done by Frank Bowers from 1900. So again, you know, it's just so nice to see how things are so different and so much similar. I just had interference here, foul by Lily. She knocked my mouse down. One more. High school painter, Teresa Green. Don't know much about her. We had this up in our archives. And I try to look her up. This was something she did in high school. If you know who she is, or if you are her, give us a call so we can, you know, get more information about you. And that's what we're trying to do here. If you jump to the next one, Bowers Corners, Stratton. This is Frank Bowers again. This is what Bowers Corners looked like in 1837.
Interesting views of the two.
And if you go to the third one down, there you go. This is early 1900s. The house, the house there is the second house in that location. The first one was built, I think, 1830-ish. It burnt down in 1870, and they rebuilt almost a twin of it in 1871. And gorgeous. And Tyona Road right now, and the maple trees are still there, but most of them are on the way out, which is, you know, sad, because it takes a good 100+ years for sugar maples to grow on that. Same picture today, well, actually 2 winters ago. Gorgeous home. If you're interested in the Bowers family, we have a presentation, about a 100-page presentation on the history of the Bowers family from when they came over from England to basically the end of their family in I think it's 1994 when Janet died in there. Clement Bowers, Janet's father, Professor Bowers, whatever. He was the son of Lamont, who was actually a business partner with Rockefeller. And this is a picture of Clement on the left, upper one, in Rockefeller's lap, which is kind of cool. Again, photos by Frank Bowers on that one. So a little history thrown in, and you know, who would have thought that little old Maine, New York was somehow intertwined with the Rockefeller fortunes and stuff. Again, if you go do that presentation, you'll find out a lot about him. There's Clement with his dog. I think the Bowers always had dogs. And yes, that's right, Lily. Dogs are important. And then a portrait of Clement Bowers by Phil Parr. Again, a local good artist, lives up now in Rochester on that one. We hope to in the future do a lot more with the carriage houses. We have a plan on bringing them back to another, a fourth museum site for us. Next one's kind of cool. Phil Parr again.
These are located directly across from Bowers.
Yeah, right on Tyona.
yeah.
It's 38 Nanacoke Road on that. And one more. He just has such a nice personality to it. Jerry Russell, I think, captured a great one.
Yeah.
He was one of the winners that year on it. We're going to jump down about 4. Keep going. We'll stop there for a second. That's from the 1876 flat books. Yeah. The house is still there. One of the barns has been torn down, but besides being paved, it's still the same location. Things change so much, I guess. What do you think that is? A dog crossing the street?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like a dog.
So let's go to the next couple pictures on grist mills. If you just go through a little brief history. Oh, that one on the left, I hope I got the right name on that. I took it off of Facebook and hope Chris Zacharias doesn't mind me using that. I didn't ask permission, but I hope it's okay. But Pitcher's Mill is obviously in a floodplain. And we've had 2 floods since 18 that's basically flooded in the basement area or the lower level. We couldn't open the mill this year, structurally damaged to it. And we have to bring in some incredibly talented people to try to repair it back, to bring it back to safe conditions again. I guess if you're going to put a water wheel next to a stream, you got to sort of expect this. The thing that's amazing though is that this building since 1830s has been there. One of the older buildings in Broome County. People have painted it in so many different ways. Go ahead. It's one of the wheels inside of the building. Another building area which is incredible is the Cyrus Gates Farmstead. And if you don't know about it, you should look into it. You can use the internet on that. It was a station on the Underground Railroad in the 1850s. Absolutely gorgeous property. There's a small cemetery on the property with members of the family and other people. That's also the same property, but across the street. That's the blacksmith shop and the guest cottage in there. So, just 2 more things that you got to have a little bit of history if you don't know this place here. During the bicentennial celebration in town of Maine. Hey, Gordy, trivia question. What year was the bicentennial?
Of the town of Maine. It could have been 76. Could have been.
Well, yeah, yes, you win. They painted their barn. That barn is actually an old wood shop and coffin maker, I guess, was the Flint family in there on that one. I'm not sure if there's anything inside that would go back to that time. And the last thing I'm going to throw at you right now is we had a great photographer who was also an electrician, Warren McGregor, and he made hundreds of portraits, and I'd love to get as many as I can. We collected a couple here on it. So if, trying to get, again, lots of different images. I'm going to stop the show now. Gordy will do his magic and cut out some of my ramblings in there. And the key thing again is, did we capture enough of the images of the town of Maine? One is for your benefit and your pleasure to look at and see what it used to look like in the good old days or how it looks like today. And different, again, having different artists use their view in there. So Gordy, I think that we're going to end it here because that's our last slide for today. And I plan on adding more to it in there when the publication comes out. Any last thoughts on that, Gordy?
Yeah, again, we're going to post this PowerPoint or PDF presentation to the Historical Society website. It's Nanticoke Valley Historical Society .com, all one word. And again, you can just Google it to find it. This presentation will be there shortly, along with the hard copy PDF. And we're trying to capture all of our presentations so we have them. Some will be very formal, some will be more casual in nature. And we encourage you to participate. We've had some independent authors submit their family histories
That
or
was a
their
really
site
good one.
histories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Maples.
Maple Glen Farm
Yeah,
by
terrific. The
Stephen
Walter
Walter.
family, yeah.
Yeah, it was wonderful. So, again, watch for this publication. You can watch our Facebook page. And we'd like to thank you for watching today. Thank you.
Bye now, everybody.
And thank you, Phil, for doing such a great job putting all of
My
this
pleasure.
together. Very good.
The end.